Yeah.
Did you say the morning blessing lunch before you made it?
Yeah. Okay. We're trying to understand the connection of paraduma, the red heifer, to Moshe Rabbeinu. So it says, "V'yichu elecho," we should bring it to you, even though Moshe isn't the one who sacrifices it. The whole Torah is connected to paraduma, and the whole Torah is connected to Moshe. And we gave two answers as to why it is that there's a special connection of Moshe to mitzvahs. Obviously Moshe is Moshe, but what's the special connection of Moshe Rabbeinu to mitzvahs in terms of how we perform mitzvahs? The first answer was Moshe Rabbeinu is the source of our Mesiras Nefesh, our self-sacrifice. And a mitzvah has to be performed with self-sacrifice. The second answer is, and that's the answer that's going to take us through the whole Maimer, is that Moshe Rabbeinu is the source of Kabbalah Soul. And every mitzvah has to be done by Kabbalah Soul. Kabbalah Soul, Rabbi Levinger's translation of Kabbalah Soul is a good translation. It doesn't explain it in all instances, but it's a very good translation. Commitment. Kabbalah Soul, I accept upon myself the yoke of heaven. What does that mean? I'm committed to do what has to be done. I like it, I don't like it, I understand it, I don't understand it, I connect to it, I don't connect to it. That's irrelevant. Right? I'm in a mood, I'm not in a mood. It has to get done, so it gets done. That's Kabbalah Soul. And that's the basis of our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the 41st chapter of Tanya. We have a minhag in Lubavitch to say the first section, third, approximately of the chapter every morning before Shachris. Reishis Aveda Bikar V'Sharsha, the beginning of all Aveda, and its source is Yira, Kabbalah Soul. Okay. That took us up to Ois Gimel. We saw the beginning of Ois Gimel yesterday. 2 days. The first paragraph in Ois Gimel, what did the Rebbe tell us? So again, we are explaining, and right in that, but it's we learned that the source of Kabbalah Soul is Moshe Rabbeinu. Taras Moshe Avdi. Moshe is the ultimate Mekabel O. Probably one of the most amazing expressions of Moshe's Kabbalah Soul was he came down from Har Sinai. Unbelievable Kabbalah Soul. Right? Mitzad Moshe, where would you assume he might enjoy being? Learning B'chavrus with the Kadosh Baruch. When he comes down from Har Sinai, what does he have to deal with? A golden calf. Right. A bunch of Jews. Like the Zara, Gilearias, they killed someone, all sorts of terrible stuff happening down there, right? Why go? Lech Rei, go down. And he listened. Amazing. Unbelievable. Right? Amazing. Without tremendous Kabbalah Soul, I think he would probably stay there. We'll see, that's not necessarily the case because of who Moshe is, but that we'll see later in the Maimer. Okay. So nice Gimel. The Rebbe begins to explain, he asks a question. But in the context of asking the question, he teaches us something unbelievably fundamental in the nature of Chukim and Mishpatim. The Medrash says, again, but we saw this on Tuesday. The Medrash says, V'yiku elecha paraduma, on the pasuk V'yiku elecha paraduma, it's a Medrash in Medrash Rabbah, on Bamidbar, right? In Parshas Chukas. Medrash Rabbah is probably the most of Rashi in Sefer Bereshis is a quote from Bereshis Rabbah. That's the Sefer where Rashi uses Bereshis Rabbah more than anything else. Medrash Rabbah is divided up into 10 parts, 5 relative, which are the main parts, the 5 relative to the 5 books of the Torah. And then there's also a Medrash Rabbah on the 5 Megillos, Esther, Rus, Shiurim, etc. Okay, Koheles, Eicha, for all 5. Right? So there's also a Medrash Rabbah in the back of the Medrash Rabbah on Bereshis and Shmeis. You'll find parts of, in Bereshis and Shmeis, you'll find Esther and Koheles. Right, and in the back of the rest of the, you'll find the rest of the Megillos. right? Obviously, Rus is relative to Shavuos. Shavuos is usually around Parshas Bamidbar. So we're already reading Bamidbar. What time we get to Shavuos? So it's shaykh to Medrash Rabbah, shaykh to Midbar. Rashi on Chumash quotes Medrash on 95% of the Rashis on Chumash. It's a direct quote of Medrash Chazal. Rashi doesn't make up anything; he just quotes. Most of Rashi on Bereshis comes from Bereshis Rabbah. Right? We're entering into Bamidbar. Most of Rashi on Sefer Bamidbar comes from a medrash called Medrash Tanchuma, written by Rabbi Tanchum, who was a Talmud of Rav Huna, who you've run into in the Gemara. Right? Rav Huna, so Rav Huna's Talmud, Rabbi Tanchum wrote a medrash. I mean, he compiled a medrash, and that's called Medrash Tanchuma. Most of Rashi on Bamidbar is Medrash Tanchuma. Direct quotes from Medrash Tanchuma. Rashi in Shmeis is mostly the Mechilta, written by Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael. Shalom's favorite Tana. Rabbi Yishmael. There's two versions of Mechilta, Rabbi Yishmael and the Rashbi, but the generally the Mechilta that we use, that we learn, is the Mechilta of Rabbi Yishmael. You can get both, and actually there's printings of the Mechilta of Rabbi Yishmael, and in the back is the Mechilta of the Rashbi. And there's certain differences. But usually Rashi is quoting the Mechilta of Rabbi Yishmael, two Tanoim, who put that. What's the Mechilta? The Mechilta is the Medrash Halacha on Sefer Shmeis. Because there's Medrash Haggadah and Medrash Halacha. There's Medrash that explains the stories in the Torah, and there's Medrash that learns Halacha in the Torah. When you sit and learn a page of Gemara, and the Gemara asks after the Mishnah the question which it often asks at the beginning of a Gemara, Manayin, from where is this? What's the scriptural source of this Halacha? So you're then going to see a Medrash Halacha explaining how words in the Torah teach you this Halacha that you learned in the Mishnah. Extra words, a drasha, a question, an answer. Fine? A Medrash. But the Medrash is interested in halachic information. Okay. So that the Medrash on Sefer Shmeis, the Medrash Halacha on Sefer Shmeis is called Mechilta. Right? There is no Medrash Halacha in Sefer Bereshis because there's no Halacha in Sefer Bereshis. Right? And don't someone say, Sefer Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Yes, that's true. You don't need a whole book for Sefer Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Okay? In Shmeis there's a lot of Halacha. Right? Most of Rashi and Vayikra is from the Sifra, which is the Medrash Halacha and Sefer Vayikra. Right? Most of Rashi on Devarim is from the Sifri, which is the Medrash Halacha and Sefer Devarim. Right? It's important information to know, which you'll forget because no one wrote it down. So what difference does it make?
Other two
But I, at least I said it in the ether. What?
Other two separate names that's Mechilta.
Mechilta, the Rashbi, Mechilta, the Rebbe Shmuel. That's what they're called. Yeah. Really? They're both called Mechilta, which just means a collection.
What Sifri was for?
Sifri was B'midbar and Devarim. The Halacha, Medrash Halacha and B'midbar and Devarim. It means books. It's not a particularly creative title. Right? It means books. Sifra means the book. That's Vayikra. Mechilta means a collection. To machil means to gather things together, like a klal, right? It's a general idea. Kol is everything. All the same words. Okay. So the Rebbe explains in Ois Gimel in the beginning a very, very important point. Every mitzvah is both a chukah and a mishpat. Every mitzvah is an expression of the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the choik of the mitzvah. The ratzon being something beyond tam v'das, beyond intellect. As we talked about, ratzon is something beyond your conscious reality, such that you don't have immediate control over it. Right? You can control your intellect. You don't want to think about something, stop thinking about it. Right? It might pop back. Okay, so stop again. That you can do immediately. Ratzon, we have no immediate control over Ratzon because it's beyond our conscious reality. It's not part of our conscious reality. It powers our conscious reality. And everything that you do in the context of your conscious reality, other than move your leg when the doctor hits the place in your leg that causes a reflex action, everything else you do in your life is a function of your will. Everything. Except moving your hand away from a hot fire also. Okay. There are certain reflex actions, but everything you do is because you want to. Right? Why do you want to? I don't know. Go ask your analyst. But you want to. All right, okay. You can't do something if you don't want to. No such thing. Your father told you have to learn how to do things you don't want to do. Well, what does that really mean? You have to learn how to set proper priorities. So even though you don't want to get out of bed, you want to keep your job more than you want to stay in bed, so you're an adult and you get out of bed. If you don't want to keep your job more than you want to stay in bed, you'll stay in bed. And guess what? You lose your job. Right. You want to stay in bed, and you want to stay in bed more than you want to learn Chassidus, you'll stay in bed. You want to learn Chassidus more than you want to stay in bed, you'll get up and learn Chassidus. It don't matter what you want. It's just that simple. Right? Now, it's not that simple because we're rather complex, but the equation is that simple. Ratzon is beyond intellect because you're thinking about what you want to. Right? Ratzon is beyond action. You're doing what you're doing because you want to. Ratzon is a makif, an or makif, an all-surrounding, encompassing power. And therefore, interestingly enough, Ratzon isn't clothed in any particular part of your body. The power of Ratzon that exists in your soul, which comes from the sphera called Keser, right, which is beyond Chokhmah. Ratzon isn't clothed in any particular part of your body. The reason you're thinking is because you want to. The reason you're seeing is because you want to. The reason you're moving your hand is because you want to. Sight is clothed in a particular part of your body. The power of sight that comes from your soul. The reason that you see is because your soul has a power of sight, and that power of sight is clothed in the kli, in the vessel called eyes. And as long as the soul is in the body, eyes see. As soon as the soul leaves the body, eyes stop seeing, because eyes don't see, souls see. What do souls use to see? What's the vessel souls use to see? It's called an eye. Eyes, hopefully. Right? Okay. Just remember when I was a bacher, one of my friends was out in Shidduchim, and he came back and we asked him how was it, and he said she had a beautiful eye. So that was just his way of saying it didn't go so well. She had a beautiful eye. We asked where it was, and he said right there. But eyes, we have two. The power of sight is clothed in the eyes. The power of speech is clothed in the mouth. The power of hearing is clothed. Oh, I never know I have these things in me. So my wife gave me these things, and I don't even feel them. You guys are probably wondering why I'm connected here. I was listening to something fascinating on my way, and they're so light, I forget they're in there. I almost went in the mikveh with them. I was walking in the mikveh, listening to something, and I realized, whoa. I was in the mikveh, getting undressed. I realized, wait, I have these things in my... Okay. I thank my wife. I think about my wife all the time. So Ratzon is not Ratzon is beyond those powers which are specific to any particular limb. Right? Power of movement, hands, feet. Right? All these powers come from the soul. When the soul leaves the body, so feet don't move, and eyes don't see, and mouths don't speak, and noses don't smell. Why not? Because noses don't smell, souls smell. They use noses to smell. That's the kli for the or. That's the kli for the light of the power of the sense of smell. Okay. Ratzon is so powerful that it expresses itself in every single one of those kelim. The reason you're smelling something is because you want to. Right? Now, there might be a smell that you don't want to smell. Okay, so then you close your nose, you stop smelling. Right? Volitionally, because you want to stop smelling. You don't want to smell that anymore. Okay. Or you remove it from your presence, whatever it happens to be. Right? You don't want to see something, so don't look. Close your eyes, whatever. Whatever it happens to be. It's all dependent on your will. So Ratzon is beyond Chokhmah. Also in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ratzon is beyond Chokhmah. Ratzon is a godly power that is higher, more lofty than the power of intellect, the power of Chokhmah. Therefore, the will of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is so to speak higher than the intellect of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But the will of a Kadosh Baruch Hu can descend down and be expressed in intellect. What's that called? That's the mishpat of the mitzvah. The ratzon of the mishpat of the mitzvah is the chayk. The seichel, the intellect of the mitzvah, that's mishpat. And every mitzvah has both. Even paraduma. And as a matter of fact, Moshe even understood the intellect of paraduma. Only Moshe. But Moshe did. As we said earlier, Shlomo Melech tried. Couldn't do it. Okay. That means every mitzvah is a choik and a mishpat. Which is a very important thing to understand. Right? The ratzon of the mitzvah is the choik of it. The seichel of the mitzvah is the mishpat of it. Some mitzvahs don't descend down into human intellect. The intellect of the mitzvah doesn't descend down into human intellect, therefore you and I still call it a chok. Might have it descended down to some spiritual level? We talked about that. What was our example? Shatnas, beautiful. Flaxen, right? Flaxen wool. Shatnas. Kiloim, right? That what? We can explain it. We can explain the mixture of chesed and gvura, because they represent two different aspects of godliness, which sometimes are meant to remain separate, right? We mentioned in terms of the story of Cain and Hevel, right? The Cain brought a sacrifice from linen, and Hevel brought a sacrifice from wool, and it didn't turn out so well, right? Okay, so there might be some spiritual level in which we can understand something about the intellect of Kiloyim, but in Gashmias, doesn't make any sense, right? Okay. Fine. So that means that mitzvah is still a chayk for us because it hasn't descended down into seichel and oishid. That doesn't mean we don't have any understanding of it whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, we're actually commanded, we'll see in this paragraph that we're about to start reading, that we're commanded to ultimately understand as much as we can understand about every mitzvah. And to appreciate the mishpat of every mitzvah. And the Rebbe is even going to talk about the level of mishpat, of paraduma, which you and I can somehow appreciate in our seichel. And what will that mishpat be? That I can't understand it. That I understand that it's a level of mitzvah that's beyond any level of understanding, and the only place where it's understood is in a place called Chachma d'Atzilus. The level of godly wisdom that exists in the world of Atzilus, the world of emanation, which is a godly world, 10 spheres. Okay, that's at least something. There's some seichel to that. Understanding that I don't understand is sometimes the most important part of understanding. That's it. Okay. So let's go weiter. Yeah. Oh wait, one thing. I'm sorry. One thing, just to make sure we finish. And at the end of Eis Gimel, we said that Moshe Rabbeinu understood paraduma because Moshe Rabbeinu's conscious reality is in a place called Chachma d'Atzilus. And then we talked about Lo Yipsik B'neihem. There's no distinction between them. That we're going to see inside the Maimer again. So I'm not going to review that. No?
I don't remember. So that's based within Kesed.
Ratzon is one of the expressions of Kesed.
One of the expressions of Kesed. Did we say what Seichel is one of the expressions for?
Chochmah, Bina, and Das. Those are the three spheres of Seichel. Chochmah, Bina, and Das. The source of it all is called Chochmah. Okay. Can we? I love Rabbi Levinger, but it used to be that Rabbi Silberg and I, in the old building, Rabbi Silberg and I taught on two classes that were separated by what do they call those things that? Partition. Yeah, partition. But there's a name for anyway. A partition where you could open and close. Right? So it wasn't very thick, and we would always hear each other teaching through the partition. And every now and then there would be comments back and forth based on what was being taught on the other side of the partition, if it was loud enough. So they ultimately built a wall. They built a wall, but they were very smart when they built the wall. They built two walls, one on each side of the partition, which means it's very easy to just take down the walls and the partition will be there still. They didn't destroy the partition. It's still there in between the walls. Right? I mean, I guess it's still there. I assume it's still there. Accordion partitions, one of those. That's one. Okay. V'zeu, page Shin Yud Zayin, second paragraph. Shebechol, last paragraph. Shebechol ha-mitzvahs yesh shnei inyonim dechukim u'mishpatim. That which in every mitzvah there is both the chayk of the mitzvah, which is the ratzon, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu expressed in this mitzvah. This is what he wants. and a mishpat. There's also the intellect of the Mishnah. Because obviously by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's intellect involved in it. Shemitzad, the rotzen, the mitzvahs, in terms of the will of mitzvahs, kol mitzvahs same chukim. Every mitzvah is a chayk. Don't steal is a chayk. Mitzad, the ratzon of that mitzvah. The ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is beyond my ability to understand. I know why the Eibishter wants such a mitzvah. The interesting thing about that mitzvah is the intellect of that mitzvah descends down into human intellect so that it is an absolutely intuitive to basically every healthy human in the world that murder is not a good idea. There's unhealthy people out there. There's quite a few of them. There's whole neighborhoods of them. There's whole countries of them. Okay, Seder, but healthy people relate to the fact that, and even those people who go around murdering people will probably talk about the fact that murder is not a good idea. They'll just justify the murder of the people they like to murder because those people aren't really people, or they're deserving of it. Right? I'd imagine if you ask that Harvard student why he thinks slaughtering and killing Jews is okay, he'll give you a very clear explanation as to why that's okay. Whereas he will still probably, actually she, more than he, interestingly enough, right? She will probably explain to you very clearly how she still does not think that murder is a good thing to do. She will actually feel quite virtuous in her lack of desire to murder. But murdering Jews is not murder, it's fine. They deserve it. Okay. So Seichel Enoshi will just understand that murder is not a good idea. But of course, if the only reason you don't murder is human intellect, then you're going to probably end up like that Harvard undergrad. A murderer.
Hooking and Ratzon both translate to will.
No. Chokmah is wisdom.
Hooking.
Hukim, the chayk is a statute. The source of the chayk is will. Only will. That's the aspect of the mitzvah that shaykh only to will. Right? There's no chokhmah in the chayk. Okay, but there's chokhmah in the mitzvah. Every mitzvah has both ratzon and chokhmah. So every mitzvah is both a chayk and a mishpat. So don't murder is also a chayk.
So even in Chachma de Atzilas, the chayk has no understanding of why there's a second part that is...
No, ma pitom. Chachma de Atzilas understands the chayk. That's the intellect of the chayk.
Because you're saying there's...
Like murder. Take murder as an example. Down here. Do you understand intellectually why it's unreasonable to murder? 100%. Okay. So in Chachma de Atzilas, you'll understand that on obviously a much deeper level, but it's the same thing.
Because you're saying that it compromises two parts, will and intellect. The will is inexplainable. So
Will is will. It's not inexplainable. It's just beyond intellect. It's not necessarily inexplainable. Adarabba, I can explain why I want to drink this cup of coffee. It tastes good. Psychologically, I think it helps wake me up, which is probably Bubba Mises, but I mean, it doesn't matter. I've convinced myself of that, and so it's just as good as whether it's real or not, who cares? Works, right? I like preparing it. I enjoy putting the Brazilian coffee into the thing and patting it down. It's like a nice little calming thing to do in the morning before I walk into Chassidus. There's all sorts of reasons why I like drinking this cup of coffee. Right? I can explain that. Explain why I like you. You're a nice guy. We have a very close mutual friend. Right? All sorts of reasons why I can explain. The fact that I like you is not intellect, it's called emotion. But I can explain it. Hmm? Now, there might be certain things I can't explain. Okay. So what the Rebbe told us, and this is so important, those mitzvahs which we thought until we learned this mimer, there's something called a chayk and there's something called a mishpat, never the twain shall meet, they're two completely different realities. No! Absolutely not. Every single mitzvah is a chayk, mitzvah the ratzon of the mitzvah, and a chayk and a mishpat, mitzad the seichel of the mitzvah. Every mitzvah.
Do they meet and talk with themselves? Do they become one, or is it still?
No, still what, sir? I don't understand. If I'm explaining to you why I want to drink a cup of coffee, does that mean my want is no longer want? It's still want, isn't it?
But then it's not beyond intellect if you can explain it.
It's something that can come down and also express itself in intellect. I'm now I'm explaining my Ratzon. That doesn't mean a Ratzon is not a Ratzon. What am I explaining? My Ratzon. I'm explaining how they made this cup. So as I'm explaining it, does the cup stop being a cup and become an idea? No, it's a cup. I can just explain to you what happened in order to make this a cup. So there's intellect also relative to this cup. Does that mean the cup now became a concept? That was not good. The cup now became a concept. You know, I just wasted. Does the here anyone that looks like it? It looks like we found it in the Middle Ages. Oh, a little bit my shirt, but that's why you wear a tie. Wow. Yeah, please. I think we need more. That was pretty serious, right? I shouldn't have made fun of my coffee. We're doing pretty well. Wow, what have you got here over there? You're well prepared. No one can say Chassidus isn't exciting. Look at that. Doesn't that look like it's some medieval text? Most of the pages have little dots of coffee. This one is just, become coffee be'etzim. Wow. That's pretty serious. Thank you. Okay, I think we're done. Okay. My jacket, my pants. Thank you. I think we're okay. Thank you very much. Black ties are okay because they don't show any of this stuff. No, I think we're okay. Thank you. I mean, I'm soaking wet, but I mean, that's what we're doing. Here, you see that? No, but it's right there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nothing happened, Rabbi.
I just have to walk around like this all day.
Yeah.
But basically, that's telling us that dry click is still
Coffee.
Okay, let's go. Whoa.
Coffee was like, I don't have intellect.
So instead I have to figure out how to keep this apart once it starts drying. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Only one page. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. What a smart guy. No, the rest, no. Thank you. Coffee's gone. I'm chaval. No, thanks. Hi, Morty. How are you? No. That was exciting. Okay. So, the ratzon of the mitzvah and the seichel of the mitzvah. And every mitzvah is a chayk, and every mitzvah is a mishpat. That's the chiddush here. Right? Okay. And therefore, we can understand to a certain degree why it is that Moshe, even though we're going to still try to understand it, but Moshe, even though for Moshe paraduma is not really a chayk, it's also a mishpat, but meaning mamish a mishpat, because Moshe Rabbeinu's seichel understands it. But since there are two different aspects to the mitzvah, so then that means Moshe Rabbeinu can be the source of our koyach to perform the mitzvah as a chayk, because it's also a chayk for him, even though it also emanates into his seichel. Because every mitzvah is a chayk and a mishpat. There's the aspect of the chayk of it, the will of God, and there's the aspect of the mishpat of it, the seichel of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's clothed in that mitzvah. Okay, so therefore by Moshe, by paraduma, the chayk is revealed. Okay, by you and I, don't murder, the chayk is revealed. But you and I also have to perform don't murder as a chayk. The intellect of don't murder is revealed to you and I. Okay, so it's a mishpat. Well, but we still have to perform it as a chayk. We have to do it because Kadosh Baruch Hu said so. Right? Okay. So now let's go further. Kol mitzvahs hem chukim v'kiyumam, and their performance sarich liyos b'derech kabbalas ol, and the performance of the mitzvah has to be b'derech kabbalas ol. in a way of commitment. Chuke hakakti gezer gezarti. Umitzad inyan the tamei ha-mitzvahs, and relative to the aspect of the reasons of mitzvahs, kol ha-mitzvahs and mishpatim. Every mitzvah is a mishpat. Even paraduma is a mishpat. The seichel of paraduma is concealed to you and I. That doesn't mean there isn't a seichel of paraduma. Doesn't mean there isn't an intellectual expression of paraduma. It's just not available to the seichel that you and I possess. Is there a level of seichel that can understand that? Yes, it's called chokhmah datzilus. Right? That level of godly seichel, godly intellect, understands the reason for paraduma. I don't, because I don't live there. Okay, who does live there? Moshe lives there. As we saw at the end of what we learned in the previous year. Moshe lives there. Moshe's conscious reality is Chokhmah Datzilus. Moshe sees godly reality. Just quickly to understand something about Atzilus. Right? We go through this very, very quickly. There are people in the room who understand what I'm about to say, hopefully very well. But I think they could also use a review, and there's people for whom this might be the first time you hear this idea or the second time. I'm not sure. Okay? There's 4 worlds. It's all called Seder Ishtalshlus, the orderly downward emanation of godliness. What is unique about Seder Ishtalshlus as opposed to all levels of existence above Seder Ishtalshlus? One small little word. Something in Seder Ishtalshlus that does not exist, so to speak, above.
Free will?
Yesh, well, okay, once you get to Elam Abriya, but not in Elam Atzilus. So that doesn't really define Seder Ishtalshlus. Kli. You and I call godly energy or. Godly energy is not or. It's godly energy. The mashal, the parable you and I use to describe that is light. Why? It works. Works perfectly. Okay? Fine. Or that energy, godly energy, just is. Okay, fine. When that energy wants to be revealed to something else, it uses something called a kli. In order to reveal something to someone else, you require a kli. What does that mean? Amnon's always the best to sit next to, because look at this thing. Wow, this is like the best. What's this thing? What's this? Okay. This is the best ever. Okay? Here. Upside down astronauts. Okay. Light. Light's colorless. The light out here has no color. Right? Okay. But ultimately, you and I know that light is full of color. What color? An infinite expression of color is contained in the light that's floating around in between us in this room. Right? Whenever that light reflects off a particular kli, right? What do you experience? A specific expression of light. Oh, there must be blue in light. Oh, there must be green in light. Oh, there must be yellow in light. We're doing pretty well with primary colors here. There must be a sort of red, in light. There must be pink in light, right? Okay? There's also, all of this exists in light. Now, if any of these colors did not exist in the light out here, then I'm doing very well today, but this was much easier to deal with because it didn't leave as lasting as impression as my coffee. Okay? All of these different expressions of light reveal to you and me what's going on in the light out here, which I wouldn't see if there weren't a kli to reveal it. Meaning, if you're in a vacuum and someone shines a light into the vacuum, you will not see the light up there in space. I was wondering, it must be absolutely astounding when those guys who did spacewalks in the old days, maybe they still, I don't know, but in the old days, big thing, spacewalks. Right? When Izzy and I were growing up, spacewalks, that was like, okay. So now the guy goes out of the capsule, the Gemini or Apollo capsule, he goes out of the capsule, and he's connected by this umbilical cord to the capsule. Okay. Now, he can probably see the sun, right? I assume. I mean, what's in the way? There's not going to be anything in the way between his vision of the sun and the sun. But of course, where he is, it's pitch black. Why? No atmosphere for the sun's rays to reflect off. No kli. It's not that there's no ore. It's full of ore. How do you know it's full of ore? What?
They just proved this recently that space is not a perfect vacuum because you can see the light in space.
Oh, perfect is one thing, right? Bottom line, the marshal that you and I'm just wondering about this guy. This guy, I assume if he could see the sun, then he would see something reflecting off himself. He would also see it reflecting off the spaceship, and he would see it reflecting off the cord connecting him. But everywhere else it would be pitch black.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. Now, when do you and I experience this? Moonlight. When you look up in the sky, now's not the time to look because it's second of the month, you won't see much, right? But if 15th of the month, look up in the sky, you see this big, fat, beautiful moon. Okay, well, why do you see the moon? Because sunlight is reflecting off the moon, right? Okay, where's the sunlight coming from? The sun, which is below the horizon over there. In between, now, the sunlight is coming directly from the sun over there, straight line to the moon. That means this whole space here is full of sunlight. Because the sun can't get from where it is to the moon without going through the space in between, right? So this whole space is full of sunlight. When you look at it, what does it look like?
Black.
Dark. Why? Well, because the sunlight is above the atmosphere, so there's no kli, there's no vessel for the revelation of the sunlight, so you don't see the sunlight. It's not that it's not there. How do you know it's there? Well, look at the moon. Once there's a kli in the way, so the sunlight reflects off the kli. Okay, so that's how Uris and Kalim work. What's the kli? The kli reveals the reality of the or to the other, to someone else, so to speak. Right? The or itself doesn't require to be revealed to itself. Okay, but in order for or to be revealed to the other, so to speak, Kalim. Okay, we'll start from the bottom up. We'll start from the three created worlds. Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. The world of creation, the world of form, and the world of matter. The world of action. Okay. Eilam Abriya, what lives there? It's the first place of creation of created reality. What's there? Metaphysical created reality. Angels and souls are there. Okay, Gan Eden Elyon. Gan Eden, where souls go when they leave the world. Upper Gan Eden is in a place called Eilam Abriya. What's Eilam Abriya look like? Well, the closest we have in this room is that cup that's in front of Azriel, not the clear cup. Here we go, thank you. Okay, you could get better than this, okay? Fine. Here's an example of Eilam Abriya. Now I'm only talking about the Kalim, not the Or. Right? What's unique about this Kli? It lets you see exactly what's inside. Doesn't hide it, doesn't color it. It's completely bottled to what's inside it. It's not interested in you experience it. It wants you to see very clearly what's in here. So let's say there's water in here, so it wants me to see the water very, very clearly. Okay. That's Eilam Abriya. There is a Kli that's not Or, so to speak, meaning it's not God. It's godly, because everything is, but it's not God. It's created, but it's a creation that doesn't hide the creator in any way, shape, or form. It's all about revealing its source. That's called bittul. So this is a state of yesh, but it's a state called bittul hayesh. The yesh is bottle. What's it bottle to? Its source. In no way, shape, or form does it hide anything about its source. So when you see an angel, you'll see godly light emanating through the angel, so to speak. Okay. That's Eilam Abriya. Eilam Yetzira, the mashal we usually use around here is a Sprite bottle. The old green ones, not the clear ones. No diet Sprite around here, right? Let's see that. You can see, oh, there we go. Okay, there's a bottle. There, good, okay? That Kli, does it hide what's in it? No. If there's water in it, you can see. If there's a darker liquid in, you'll figure out it's sort of darker, whatever's in there. Okay. It does not hide what's in it. But there's enough yesh, there's enough independent existence. It's not truly independent, but there's enough, let's call it personal experience of the Kli that it colors your vision of the light powering it. So it doesn't give you as clear a view. What color is the liquid in Beryl's bottle? I don't know. Not sure. If you didn't know that there's something called ginger ale, and all you've ever seen in your whole life, Canada Dry, that was from Morty. If you didn't know there was such a thing called Canada Dry ginger ale, and all you'd ever seen in your life was Sprite, what color is the liquid you would expect to come out of the Canada Dry bottle?
Green.
Well, either green or clear. I would assume it would come out like Sprite. Why wouldn't it be clear? I go, oh, look, a Canada Dry Sprite. Oh, wow, didn't know. And then I pour it out, and it's a slightly different color. Why? Well, the Kli didn't tell. I can notice it's probably a little darker in the Kli than a Sprite bottle, okay, I'm saying, but it's hiding a certain aspect of the nature of the light. But it's not hiding the existence of the light. It's not hiding that from me at all. Right? Very clearly revealing to me the existence of the light, that Kli. So up there in Elam Yetzirah, what exists there? Gan Eden Tachton, lower Gan Eden, souls. Souls of everyday regular folk who leave this world. That's where those souls go. Hopefully they get elevated to Gan Eden Elyon, to upper Gan Eden at some point, but in the meantime, most souls start out in Gan Eden Tachton, right? Which is a pretty holy place, right? Angels, most angels live there. 8 levels of angels. There's 10 levels of angels. 8 live in Yitzira, 2 live in Bria. Okay. Holy place. Godly. They're unbelievable. Revelation of God. Olam Asiyah, this world. Here's our mushal for this world. That thermos. Anything in there? Maybe. Don't know. Completely conceals the light in it and posits its existence as independent and about self. Yeah?
Sorry, and Yitzira HaTachton is where most souls come from? Bria HaTachton is where most souls come from?
Gan Eden. When I said Tachton Elyon, I was only talking about Gan Eden. Gan Eden Elyon is Olam HaBria. Gan Eden Tachton. Upper Gan Eden that's the villas. The villas with the view and the pool, that's Olam HaBria. A nice, condominium with a place to park your car, that's Olam HaYetzirah. Bad, not as good a view. All right? Maybe there's a pool, but down at the end of the block. Okay. The villa, like the real villa, everybody's working for their villa. I want a big villa. I got to do mitzvahs. I'll get a big villa. All right? So that's Gan Eden Elyon. Gan Eden Tachton's pretty good though. What do Chazal say? The one moment in Olam Haba, one moment of pleasure in Olam Haba is greater than all the pleasure that could possibly be experienced in the whole history of the world. All of the intellectual, emotional, physical, spiritual pleasure that could possibly be experienced in all of the so far 5,785 years and 9 months of the world's existence, all is 7 months, 8 months. All of that isn't equal to one moment of the pleasure of Olam Haba. The soul experiences once it leaves this world. Amazing places, incredible. What's this world look like? That. Anything in there? I don't know. What is this thing saying? Aren't I a nice shade of turquoise? Isn't that turquoise? Something like that, right? Aren't I a nice shade of turquoise? Don't I need a little bit of spotting up here because I'm cracked and, chipped off the color, right? All it's doing is expressing itself. What's in there? I don't know. Is there anything in there? I don't know. It hides it completely. Welcome to Elam Hazeh. Right? What's this table doing? This table is positing its own existence. It won't let anything in to where it is. It's completely not buckled to anything. It's a yesh. Where I am, you can't be. Because I'm here. Useful for something. Holds up the book. Baruch Hashem. Okay. Yesh. With a capital Yud and a capital Shin. Dripping in Yesh. Okay. That's Eilam Hazeh Gashmi. That's this world. Okay, so now, why are we doing this? We want to really understand Atzilus, because we want to understand what does it mean Moshe Rabbeinu lives in Chokhmah Atzilus. Atzilus is the first of the four worlds. Why is it part of Seder Ishtalshlus? Because also Atzilus has something called Kalim. There's also light clothed in vessels in Eilam Atzilus. In other words, there's a somehow not infinite expression of light. I don't want to exactly say finite, because you're talking about a godly reality, but okay, basically finite. Right? And what does that mean? Eilam Atzilus is a place of absolute godliness, but godliness is revealed in the context of 10 spheres. That's what exists in Eilam Atzilus. The light, godly light, is clothed in kalim, but the kalim are not created existence. The kalim themselves are godly. Right? Generally, what's the kli? The kli is, so to speak, something else revealing godliness or hiding godliness. Because kalim both reveal and conceal simultaneously. Right? This book is revealing blue in light. It is concealing the other infinite amounts of expression of light. Right? True. It's revealing a very singular, finite expression of light. Light can be blue. What else can light be? An infinite amount of colors and shades. Okay, but this doesn't reveal that at all. This hides that. This conceals that. Okay, that's what kalim do. They reveal and hide simultaneously. They reveal the finite and hide the infinite. Okay. In Eilam Atzilus, godliness is revealed in a relatively finite way. Chochma, Bina, Das, Gedula, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzer, Chod, Yesod, Malchus. 10 different spheres, 10 different aspects of godly reality. Okay, amazing. So what's being hidden? Well, the infinite aspect of godliness is being hidden to a certain degree, because it's being expressed in some sort of unique, specific way. What's being revealed? These different aspects of godly reality being revealed by those kalim. What's our mashal for the kalim of Atzilus? Anybody remember? An ice cup. A cup made of ice. What's ice? H2O. What's the water in it? H2O. It's all the same. There's no separate existence to the kli from as opposed to the or. So in Atzilus, so they're both God, both the Eibishter. Okay. That being said, the kli is godliness revealed in finitude. H2O. You can sculpt it if you want. H2O can be sculpted into a menorah and lit in front of the Parliament building in Ottawa. Every year they make an ice menorah, because Ottawa basically does not go above zero for 4 months. That's why none of us live there. Okay, Montreal's colder. That's why Morty left. Okay, right. Okay. So you can take H2O and carve it. When? When it's in its solid form. That's called ice. Still H2O. It's exactly the same stuff, right? As steam coming out of your iron. It's all the same. Well, steam, sort of hard to get steam. Don't grab steam. I don't know. If you try to grab steam in a place where you won't burn yourself, right? You grab the steam, you don't get any steam. What might you get? A little bit of a moisture, water. You're not going to get the steam of it. You might get some of the water of it, right? Now, if you're standing outside in Montreal in about 14 seconds, what will that water turn into? Ice. Okay, Beseder. Now you go, whoa, my hands are cold, and you go inside. Okay. So, but the ice, it's all the same stuff. It's all H2O. Except the ice is H2O in finitude, ad kedei kach, in limitation, ad kedei kach, that I can actually sculpt it. In Ottawa, the shluchim make a menorah out of ice. Right? I once saw a video of someone who made a whole hotel out of ice. They sculpted in igloos, right? They live in igloos. Okay? But they made a whole hotel, and so people would pay to go to the hotel. The whole hotel the walls were ice. Right, the floor was ice. Obviously, there was a carpet down on the floor, etc. So you don't stick your foot to the floor like a tongue to a popsicle. But The whole thing is made of ice. Amazing. Why? Because if it's cold enough, ice will hold its shape. In Eilam Atzilus, the Kli is the Eibishter. The Or is the Eibishter. It's a godly world. It's not a created world. It's the source of creation, but it's not created. It's creator. Where does creation come from? Bria, Yesh Miayin, Creatio ex nihilo. Where does that come from? Malchus of Atzilus, that the lowest level of Atzilus, gives birth to Eilam Habriya. And then Ayin, that which is not created reality, gives birth to Yesh, something that is created reality. An amazing miracle. Right? That you could plant a plum seed and get an apple tree. How does that work? Okay. Seder. Only God can do that. It's called Yesh Miayin. So that's Atzilus. Where's Mesha's conscious reality? There. That's where Mesha lives. Mesha lives in a place where he sees everything as revealed godliness, even the Kli. The Kli doesn't conceal godliness in any way, shape, or form. Not even like the Kli in Eilam Habriya, which doesn't conceal godliness. It allows you to see the godliness. But the Kli will say, it doesn't say, because the word I doesn't really exist up there, but let's put it in their mouths. I'm revealing godliness. There's no I to reveal godliness in Atzilus. It's just the Eibishter. It's just all him. Just like the ice cup, it's just all H2O. It's just what's here. Okay. So that's where Mesha lives. And our question was, if Mesha lives there, and therefore the paraduma is a mishpat, so how can it possibly be that Mesha gives you and I koyach to fulfill the mitzvahs of chukim? How does our koyach come from Mesha? Oh, well, now we've sort of given the answer. We're going to fill it out, but we've sort of given an answer. And the answer is, well, every mitzvah is a chayk, every mitzvah is a mishpat, just like you and I have to relate to the chayk of the mishpat, we have to relate to the chayk of don't murder. So Meish Rabbeinu can relate to the chayk of paraduma. Right? And so he can give you and I the koyach to do that, relative to every mitzvah. Okay. Because if, again, and this is all based on the chiddush of understanding that every mitzvah is both. Because if I understand there's something called the chayk and there's something called the mishpat, so then all I'm saying is for Moshe there's no such thing as a chayk. Right? There's no such thing. Why? Well, because he understands paraduma. So it's not a chayk. No. It's a chayk. Just also a mishpat for him. For you and I, it's only a chayk. There's no mishpat in it. There's no seichel in it. I don't understand it at all. It's counterintuitive. Okay, let's go a little further. Umitzara inyan detame mitzvah's third line. Kol mitzvahs and mishpatim. All mitzvahs are mishpatim. V'kiyumam, and the fulfillment of them tzarech liyos gam mitzad tam. And the fulfillment of those mitzvahs has to also be mitzad tam. I have to appreciate the reason, the seichel, the intellect in the mitzvah. So I'm performing the mitzvah not simply because the Eibishter told me to. That's the basis of it all. But I'm also performing the mitzvah, and this will give the mitzvah much great. It'll create a greater expression of the mitzvah in my being because I work intellectually. When I understand something, I feel a greater connection to it. And so I'll perform the mitzvah because it's the Eibishter's will. But I'll also be involved in understanding as much as I can about that mitzvah, so it'll resonate more in my being. Mitzvah the seichel of it. Okay, and I'm obligated to do that relative to every mitzvah, because every mitzvah is a chayk. So every mitzvah has to be, why are you doing this? God said so. Right? In Lubavitch, we get dressed differently in the mikveh than almost everybody else. And every now and then someone asks why. What's the first thing we do? Most people, the first thing they do is they put on their lower garment. We don't. We put on our undershirt and our tzitzis first. And then, some people finish putting on even the shirt, some people put on the lower garment then, and then the rest, okay. But we dress our upper part before our lower part. Okay. Some other Chassidim do, but most people don't. Okay, every now and then you might get asked in the mikveh. Why do you guys do that? Because it annoys them that we do things that they don't do. Okay, fine. So there's two answers. First answer is, That's just what we do in the Lubavitch. That's the first answer. That's the most important part. That's the way we do it. Is there a reason? Well, there happens to actually be a reason, but it doesn't matter. If there's no reason there is. This is what we do. But okay. So getting dressed in the mikveh is just an incredible expression. Oh, I'm just so happy. I don't even want to put up. I just want to sit there with my undershirt and my tzitzis because I'm a Lubavitcher. I mean, only Lubavitchers hang around like this. Right? And so you just sit there and then start schmoozing in the mikveh for 25 minutes because. But there is a reason. Right? What's the reason? Very interesting reason. David HaMelech, famous medrash. David HaMelech took off his tzitzis. And what did he say? Oy vey, I have no mitzvahs. I have no mitzvahs. And then what did he see? Oy, I always have a mitzvah. It's called bris milah. I'm never without a mitzvah. What does that mean was his state when he took off his tzitzis? What could he see right away?
His nudity.
No? It's bris milah. That's the tam of why we get dressed the way we get dressed and get undressed the way we get undressed. The last thing we take off is our tzitzis. Actually, the last thing you take off is this. Right? It's also the first thing you put on. Right? Okay. When you come out of the mikveh, first thing you put on, reach over, put your yarmulke on. Right? Okay. Because if Chas v'sholom is a fire drill, at least you'll have a yarmulke on when you run out with nothing else. Okay. Actually, now it's not a fire drill; it's a siren. Right? Okay, so there is a tom to it, and at the tom, once you hear the tom, it makes perfect sense, right? Well, the David HaMelech, that seems to be the way David HaMelech got dressed, right? Because as soon as he took off his tzitzis, he went, "Oy vey, oh, Baruch Hashem," right? Okay, but bottom line, why do we do it? That's what we do. That's what we do. You learn when you learn Hilchos getting dressed in Lubavitch yeshivas, which is different than Hilchos getting dressed anywhere else. Okay, Seder. So there's a tam to it, and there's a ratzon to it. I mean, it's in my head because of experience in the mikveh today. Right? Okay. Val Yidesha Meisha Yada Tam the Mitzvah Para. Mitzvah's para, by virtue of the fact that Moshe understood the reason of mitzvah's para. Kayim gam mitzvah zu mitzad tam. He fulfilled that mitzvah also mitzad the tam of it. That doesn't mean it wasn't a chayk. It's still a chayk for him, but there's also tam. For you and I, there's no tam, but for Moshe there is tam. So the Rebbe's about to say, Masha ein kein b'kol ha'echad. That was not the case in every other person. Kiyum mitzvah's paraduma mitzad tam. How do you and I fulfill the mitzvah of paraduma in terms of tam, in terms of intellect? What's the intellect of paraduma for you and I? Zeshem is beinain, that we contemplate and meditate. Shigam mitzvazu yeshla tam. It also has a tam. The only thing you and I can understand about the tam of paraduma is there is one. Where? In a tzilus, not here. I don't get it. Okay, Seder, but that itself is some understanding of the tam of paraduma. Is there a tam? Yes. That itself is an incredibly important thing, that if you didn't learn this mimer, you would never know. You'd assume there's no tam. It's only a chayk. No. Every mitzvah, that's the chiddush that we just learned here, and it's so important to understand. Every mitzvah is a chayk and a mishpat. Every mitzvah is an expression of the Eibishter's ratzon and the expression of the Eibishter's seichel. Some mitzvahs, the seichel doesn't go anywhere. So the one particular mitzvah, the seichel doesn't go anywhere. It just stays where it started, up there in Chachma Datzilus. In the wisdom of it, there's the sphere of Chachma Datzilus. Doesn't go anywhere. We'll read two more lines and we'll stop. Va'al pi zeh yuvan b'pashtus. I just want you to see the answer. I've said it outside 5 times. We see it inside. Al pi zeh, based on this yuvan b'pashtus, it's understood very simply. Shegam etzel Moshe. Also by Moshe, loy hayach chaser chas v'sholem, it wasn't lacking kiyum hamitzvahs, the performance of mitzvahs, ba'ofen dechuke chakakti gezeder gezarti, in a way of, a fashion of, I'm doing this because God said so. Because even Moshe Rabbeinu, there's the chayk of paraduma. There's also mishpat. And for him, the mishpat's revealed. There's a chayk. Ki inyan zeh, this idea, shebekiyum mitzvahs, in the performance of mitzvahs, hu mitzad harotzin the mitzvahs. It comes from as an expression of Ratzon mitzvahs. Now, I just want you to see where we're going, and then we'll stop. What we're going to see first thing Sunday morning. Aval. The Rebbe is going to ask a question. Bir zeh tzarich lebir neisaf. This explanation requires greater explanation. What was our basic answer? Our question was, if Moshe Rabbeinu lives up there in Elam Atzilus, therefore, paraduma is a mishpat, according to Moshe. So how can Moshe Rabbeinu be the source of our ability to perform the mitzvahs and the level of a choik? Just because. There's no reality of that in the world of Moshe Rabbeinu. So how can he possibly give us something that he himself doesn't experience and doesn't have? Okay, that was the basic question. What's the answer to the question we just saw? No. Where, if you think there's something called a chayk and there's something called a mishpat and they're completely separate, and Moshe for Moshe everything is a mishpat, so that's true. Then for Moshe there's no such thing as a chayk. It doesn't exist. So how can he give you and I the kayak, the power to perform that type of mitzvah? That the Rebbe just explained to us. That's not the way the world works. How's the world work? Every mitzvah is both a chayk and a mishpat. And therefore, even though for Moshe Rabbeinu he experiences the aspect of mishpat very clearly in paraduma, the seichel of it, the intellect of it, also experiences the chayk of it, just like you and I can and should experience the chayk of don't murder. Why don't you murder? God said so. Can I explain to you why it's a bad idea? I can explain to you why it's a bad idea. You can't live like that. Okay. But that being said, bottom line, God said so. Okay, we relate to that. Okay, so now I understand. Moshe Rabbeinu can give you and I the koyach to perform the mitzvah in the aspect of, and the way the Rebbe said it every time, Huke chakakti gezeder gezarti, a statute I established, a decree I decreed. We can perform the mitzvah in that fashion and get the koyach to perform the mitzvah in that fashion from Moshe. Why? Because Moshe also, even though paraduma is a mishpat in the realm of Moshe, meaning he can understand the seichel of it, the intellect of it, he also experiences the chayk of it, because every mitzvah is both. They're not two separate things. Every mitzvah is both. It's not mitzvahs like this and mitzvahs like this. No, all mitzvahs are both. Sometimes what's revealed is the chayk aspect more powerfully. Sometimes what's revealed is the mishpat aspect more powerfully. And the Torah says that, the mishpatim. The Torah calls them mishpatim. Okay, therefore Moshe can give us the koyach to perform the chayk. Now the Rebbe is going to ask a question, but wait a minute, this requires some more explanation. Because clearly paraduma, let's say it outside and we'll see it inside on Sunday, clearly paraduma is a unique mitzvah. That's why it says Zos Chukas, right? It describes paraduma as something very, very unique. By Moshe, it's not unique. By Moshe, it's stuck on paraduma, the same thing. No difference. Why do you get stuck? Well, I can sit and talk to you for 5 hours as to why stuck is an important thing to do, right? It's important in terms of the person who's receiving. It's important in terms of the person giving. It's important that the person who's giving the money has to develop a certain appreciation of the fact that God is so nice because he lets me keep 90% of what he gives me. It's very nice. Some people relate to, I'm such a tzaddik, I give away 10%. God's so kind, he lets you keep 90%. It's all his. And he lets you keep 90% of it. That's so sweet. The government doesn't even let you. Another raya, the government's not God. Okay. Right? Okay. So we're still going to have to try to figure it out. We'll see that the Rebbe's going to flesh out the question, and the answer to the question is going to take the whole rest of the Maimer. The answer to this question will only be at the very, very end of the Maimer. Before we get there, the Rebbe's going to explain the idea of Tefillah L'Moshe. We're going to start the next paragraph will begin with the pasuk Tefillah L'Moshe. What does Moshe daven for? What does it mean that Moshe davens? Because Moshe's tefillah is called Tefillah L'Osher, a tefillah for the rich person. David HaMelech's tefillah is called Tefillah L'Oni, tefillah for the poor person. It's also Tefillah L'Chabakuk, which is actually the Haftarah, I think it's the second day of Shavuos. Tefillah L'Chabakuk. right? But there's two levels, three, but two basic levels of tefillah: Asher and Ani, the rich person and the poor person. The question arises: what's the rich person davening for? He has everything. Okay, and when we describe what rich means, we'll see that it means he's lacking nothing. So if he's lacking nothing, why is he davening? That's where we're going. Okay. Have an amazing Shabbos. Wait, hold on. It's a Sunday. There's no shiur Sunday. I keep saying Sunday. I will see you Tuesday, right? Right, Taka. So we'll see you Tuesday because so you should be makabel the Torah b'simcha b'pnimius.